In the early 70s, I was a member of the Camp Club in George Street, run by the Campaign Against Moral Persecution. I used to go to dances and meetings there, and some of us thought it would be a good idea to staff the phone on Friday and Saturday nights for people to ring in for information and help. I was also a member of the Religious Society of Friends, or Quakers, and in 1973 asked them for support for a more formal telephone counselling service. Quakers had already given moral support to the Camp Club, and in 1975 went on to make a public statement calling for law reform in Australia. These days, Quakers are happy to marry LGBT people and are probably the most LGBT-friendly mainstream church in Australia. So in late 1973, a meeting was organised with representatives from Camp, the Quakers and the Humanist Society. Although there was a lot of support, no formal organisation was established. However, the telephone was staffed for another 4 or 5 years at the Camp Club, but it later stopped and the club eventually closed. In 1984, Lance Haynes, through the Free Business Association, a gay organisation, started a more formal telephone counselling service. I joined in 1989, at which time there were only about 7 people involved. As I was then a lifeline telephone counsellor, I started running training courses for the gay counselling service. I ran these twice a year for about 15 to 20 people for a number of years. Not all trainees completed the courses and went on the phones, but a number became involved as volunteers in other capacities. The organisation was called the Homosexual Community Welfare Service, but when we later came to incorporate, the name was changed to the Gay and Lesbian Welfare Association, or GLWA. GLWA grew and organised a number of other activities and events during the 90s. These included theatre and film nights, lectures, dinners, publications, leaflets and other gatherings. For our 15th anniversary in 1999, we organised a celebratory dinner at which the then Premier of Queensland, Peter Beattie, spoke and handed out certificates of appreciation to some of the founding members. The increased activity brought more calls, and by the late 90s we were getting around 3,000 calls a year. Many calls were for information about gay venues and groups, but those have lessened in recent years. There have always been calls about coming out, relationships, loneliness and isolation, and all age groups are represented. A training course has been held for potential counsellors twice a year for the last 20 or so years, which represents a significant input of skills to the LGBT communities. Participants have also had the experience of a 10-week course on a part-time basis with a small group of their peers, which has provided much fun and friendship. In more recent years, the number of calls to GLWA has dropped quite significantly to around 750 a year. The availability of information over the internet has obviously made that a main source of help, but there are still calls from people with relationship and isolation issues.